So good morning, guys. I hope I'm audible. So let's start today's pre-market analysis. I welcome you all. We couldn't conduct the live session yesterday and day before yesterday as I had some personal issues. So let's start with today's day. We have seen yesterday a very broad root candle in the market. You can see here, these are the levels for last Friday. So I'll quickly add up the new levels for today with respect to the pivot point which we had seen in yesterday's market. So for those who are new in this live, so these are the patterns which we have drawn long before. So this I my as per my analysis, this is symmetrical triangle patterns which was nifty following from past month, and you can see that it respected all the levels on a trend line below and the above one as well. So from this 24,600 level, it bounced back to again to attain the higher level on the symmetrical pattern, symmetrical triangle pattern. So let's quickly start with today's pivot point and support resistance levels. So I'll just quickly mark the levels first, then we will go to the zones for today. So you can see Nifty 50 closed um, nearly like 25,140 level after attaining a level above 25 3 uh, 310 levels. So you can clearly see that. So I'll just add today's pivot point 25 160. I'll mark it as PP for the day 25 150. Let's mark it as 150, and today's support S1 will be at 20,050. 25,050 will be the S1. So I consider 2550 level to be the S1, and near to that, you know that 25,000 is psychological level, but according to the PP pivot point level 25,050, I mark it as the support one. Let's go to the support 2. Secondly, 24,950. So this level have a speciality where we have our uh, EMA levels lie. So EMA levels lies at S2, which is at 24,950 level. So for the third resistance, I mark it as 24 S3 S 24,858, nearly at 830. Let's mark it accurately, 24,850. So these are these three support levels for the day with respect to the pivot point for the particular day. So let's go on to the resistance level. R1 I consider as 25,250, and R2 lies at 25,350, and one more R3 also we need. R3 is at 25,460. So these are the levels for Nifty with respect to the pivot point according to the market movement happened yesterday. So with respect to pivot point, these are the support and resistance for the day. So let's sort this out in the chart itself. So let's mark the pivot point initially 25,150. So 150 pivot point is marked. So you can see the pivot line. So as long as Nifty stays above, so you can see that Nifty 50 closed below the pivot line yesterday. So exactly the pivot point is at 160, but we marked it as 150. But if Nifty is reclaiming back the pivot point, which is at 25, 150, 160 range with a higher volume. So you can see that I already marked the high volume. So why we have a good look at volume nowadays, it means that market is kind of acting in a herd mentality way, where people goes with the news based trading setup. So whatever news or whatever things affecting the market, people are trading in that particular scenario. That's why we consider the volume at the most. So any breakout above the pivot point with a higher volume, then definitely market is going to have a positive movement in the index itself. So let's zone this out level with respect to the pivot line. So let's initially mark the bullish zone. So any movement above the pivot point, which is a 25 160 exactly. So let's mark it as any movement above this pivot point. 25 250 will be the first resistance, but we will consider 25 350, which is the R2, and 25 460. So I consider these to be the bullish zones for the day. So I will mark the first R1 with an yellow line. So 25 250 was our R1, 25 250 was our R1. So these levels, so if Nifty stays above our pivot point with a higher volume, we can ride up to this 25 250 range, which is our R1. And if it is showing that similar strength in the market with that higher volume, these will be the second and third zone for the day. So any movement above pivot line with a higher volume will we can ride the market up to 25 250, and similarly to 25 350 and 460 with respect to the movement strength and volume in the market. So these are the bullish zone for the day, which I find with respect to the 25 150 160 pivot line. So let's zone. Let's have a quick look at the zone. If Nifty stays in a range bound market. So let's see that what if Nifty stays in a range bound market, it will be definitely in between the S1 and the R1. So with respect to pivot point, if Nifty stays in a range, it will be between 25050, which is our S1, and 25 250 is our R1. With in between these levels, if Nifty stays in a range bound way, these will be the zones for that range consolidated movement for the Nifty 50s. So let's consider this as to be a day range if it is not having any higher volume strength in the market, or not a proper breakout above this 250 level. So in between R1 and S1, we considered as the range bound zone for Nifty. So let's have a quick look at the bearish side of Nifty. What if Nifty turns bearish flip today? So let's see that it will be between S1 and S0. S1 and S2 initially. So we can see S2 is between 24,950 where our EMA levels lie. So these are the levels for the Nifty 50 for the day. If it is having a proper volume, and if it reclaim this pivot line, which is at 25 160 150 level, yeah, with a higher volume, as I said, then definitely we can ride the Nifty up to 25 to 50, which is the R1 resistance 1. And if that similar strength stays in the market, we can see Nifty closing above this Nifty retesting these levels, which is 25 350 and 25 460 levels. We can see that if market have a higher volume and a reclaiming this pivot line points 25 160. So these are the three zones for Nifty 50 for the day. We can see the bullish zone, the consolidated range bound zone, and the bearish zone. So you can see the levels also. Support, three supports and R1s are given. These are the levels for the Nifty for the day. Let's move on to Bank Nifty right now. So these are previous levels. I'll just quickly remove it. So Bank Nifty, what we witnessed, we had a little bit consolidated movement. So a profit booking approach was seen in the Bank Nifty, which led a little bit candle yesterday. So a major profit booking also happened, and also this US China tariff news are also hitting our market. So let's have a quick look at the what are the levels for Bank Nifty for the day. Let's start with the pivot point. So I find pivot point to be the 56,480. 56,480 will be the pivot point for Bank Nifty for the day. So I'll just mark the support one. Support one is at 56,250. This will be the support one. S2 will be at 56,000. So it is a rounded off number which have a psychological impact as well. So S2 will be at 56,000 and S3 is at 56. 55,780 will be the support 3 levels for the day. So these are the support levels. So let's move on to the R1 is at 56, 56, 725. Let's round it off 730. So R2 will be at 56, 950 levels, and R3 at 57,200. So these are with respect to the pivot point for with respect to yesterday's levels. So I'll just quickly mark the pivot line first, which lies at 56,480, 56,480 level. So these are the pivot point level. Let's mark the bullish zone which lies above R2 and R3. 56,950 plus 57,200. So you can see that the levels and the ranges are pretty bigger in Bank Nifty. 57,200. So let's quickly mark the R1 level. Resistance 1 is at 56,730. Give it a color. So let's mark the second zone which lies between S1 and R2, R1. S1 is at 56,250 and between R1 is at 56,730. Simply mark the bearish zone as well, which is below S1, 56,250 and 56,000. Let's mark this as R3, 55,780. So these are the levels for Bank Nifty. You can see here that this is the pivot line which lies at 56,480. So any movement above the pivot point with a higher volume, first this 56,730 which is R1 resistance once our levels are going to be tested, and after that if similarly the strength continues, these bullish zones are going to be retested by Bank Nifty. So the first resistance will be at 56,730. If a movement a breakout above this with that similar strength in volume happens, these 50 R2 56 950 and above 57 200 are going to be retested in the coming days. So intraday levels range can be in between these S1 and R2 and S1 and R2, and similar pattern continues with a higher volume 56 730, which is resistance 1. We can ride up to that above this level. So PP, if any if any close any higher strength in volume above this level, which will validate our bullish trend in Bank Nifty. So these are the three zones for the day for Bank Nifty: the bullish zone, the range bound zone, and the bearish zone. So just keep in mind that any movement with higher volume above the PP pivot point level, which will give that bullish validation, and it can ride up to 56 730 initially, and a breakout above with similar strength in volume will lead to the 56 950 and 57 200 levels in the market. So these are the levels of Bank Nifty. Let's move on to Sensex. The Sensex for the day. So let's start with the pivot point. The pivot point lies at 82, 120, 127, 130 we will mark it. And the S1 is at 81, 690, 700, 51, 700. So S2 will be at 81, 350. 81, 350. And S3 will be at 80,900. And resistance ones will be at 82, 450. And R2 will be at 82,900. And R3, 83, 200. The ranges are pretty high comparatively to the other days. This is with respect to the pivot point. So these are the support and resistance for the day for Sensex. So let's quickly zone this out in this chart with respect to the bullish zone. So any movement above the pivot line, which is at 82, 130, will have a bullish trend in the market. So let's mark this out. Any movement above this levels and a breakout above 80 to 450 will lead validate our bullish trend. So let's mark this out. 80 to 900 plus 83 200. So this will be the bullish zone for Sensex. So any movement above the R1 with the similar volume, 450, 80 to 450, and the pivot point is at 80 to 130. We will mark the range bound as well, S1, which will be between S1 and R1, which is that S1 is at 81 700, and R1 is at 82 450. We have a higher range here, you can see. So the bearish zone also we will mark quickly. It will be below S1. S1 is at 81 700 to the next 81 350. So these are the zones and resistance and support levels for the day. So this 80 to 130 is the pivot line. Any movement above this, if Sensex reclaim this level with a higher volume, we can ride it up to this 80 to 400 level will be tested, and any movement above this with that similar volume, which will lead the index Sensex to this particular R2 and R3 levels with that higher volume. So volume matters in all three indices. As I said, the mentality of market is respected with the news based market. So any negative or positive news impact will directly impact our indices. So volume matters here. So any movement above this pivot line with the higher volume will validate our bullish movement for the day. So these are the three zones for the Sensex, and you can see the R2 lies at 80 to 900 and the R1 is at 80 to 400. So first, if it is gonna reclaim this pivot line level with a higher volume, it is gonna test this level first, and any movement above the with this a breakout above this with a similar volume, then it's gonna test the R2 levels. So these so any movement below our S1, which is at 81 700, will lead to the second support, which is at 81 350 level. So these chances are, so there is an indecision in the market, to be frank, but we should focus on the volume as well as the pivot line direction, so which we can validate our directions for the day. So let's have a quick look at the GIF Nifty, where GIF Nifty is trading. GIF Nifty. So GIF Nifty is trading 25 points positive for the day. So let's have a quick look at the FIA data. So you can see here that FIA remained net sellers yesterday as well. They have removed a ton of nearly 1,000 crores of asset from the cash market, and DIA similarly continue their buying strategy. They have added up 3,000 crores data. So let's have a quick look at FIA's derivative sensitive data. So let's look at derivative data. So you can see that for 14 they closed net bullish. So similar with a positive movement of GIF Nifty as well as the FIA data shows that in Nifty and in the index we can see a positive to neutral start for the day. So I expect a positive start for Nifty. So these are the levels for all three indices. Nifty, Bank Nifty, and Sensex. We just need to keep this in mind that any movement above the pivot line with respect to the market, with respect to a higher volume, then we can validate our positive movement for the day. So this will be the first level you can for the Nifty. So any movement above the pivot line with respect to high volume in all three indices, Nifty, Bank Nifty, and Sensex, any movement above the pivot line with a higher volume will validate our positive sentiments in the market. So we can ride it up to the R1, which is market according to each indices which we have marked already. So any moment above this pivot line will validate our uh, positive sentiments in the market. So that's for today's market pre-market analysis. So let's wind up for the day. So proper risk management should be kept for each and every trade for the day. I wish everyone a good day, and thank you.